You're listening to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast.
This makes my nipples hard.
Hey, welcome to the show. You've heard us talk about The Secret of Monkey Island, and you've heard us talk about LeChuck's Revenge, and now you get to hear us talk about The Curse of Monkey Island. Yay!
So yeah, yay! That's man. I knew what you were gonna say, and I don't know what to do with that. I still, first of all, you get to is a little sumptuous, if not gratuitous.
No, this was a fun game. Now, I remember, because I'd played this game way back in the day, I remember my first thoughts on it was didn't like the animation change because I was always fussy when things left pixel art, and some of my reasons for feeling that way still stand, and I'll go over them later on. But bloody hell, that was a fun game, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, it was really good. Well, that's okay. That's a relief for anybody listening who loves Monkey Island 3, because it could be a little wild cardy, especially with LucasArts games. So just we both really like this game. I think it might be my favorite of the three, but we'll figure that out as we go.
Yeah, it was a little less dickish. I mean, there were still jerky things you do, obviously, over the course of it, but it didn't have the same
mean-spiritedness.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I completely agree. Okay, let's do two things to start. Let's give our quick little backgrounds with the game. As you just alluded to, you played it before, so let's get the when and why and how you just replayed it now. And then also any, I liked how we did last time where we started with any notes on the last game, any things we've thought of since our last episode that we want to add. So, when did you first play Curse of Monkey Island?
So I think I didn't even get around to playing Curse until closer to 1999 or 2000, because it came out in 1997. I remember being excited. I remember looking forward to it, and I remember thinking it was really easy and really short. And now, as a grown-up coming back to it, I'm like, you thought this was easy? What was going on in your brain that made you able to think that this was a super easy game? Because it's not that it wasn't, it was pretty straightforward and it was fun, but it was not easy. You can't just figure everything out immediately and waltz through the game without having to put stuff together and figure stuff out.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the harder LucasArts games for sure.
It was.
Two as well. Two was quite. There was some bullshit moments in 2, and there's some BS in 3 as well. So yeah, I get that. Okay, so you played it in 99-ish. I didn't play it until this week.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Oh,
okay,
really?
Oh, cool.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I've been putting it off because I'm pretentious about pixel art. Right, exactly. This was super fun. It was so good and so beautiful. I mean, I've always found it beautiful from screenshots alone, because obviously the way the sky is done and things like this is, I would say almost iconic, if not for the fact that it's iconism is trapped within adventure game, the small adventure game genre. But yeah, Bill Tiller's work is insane as he quickly scrolls down his document to get Bill's name. I just played it this week, yeah, in part because of the puzzles, and then I didn't play it when it came out because 97 was the precise year that I started playing guitar. I was thinking in my head, I'm like, is that the year I got into girls? And it was kind of the same thing, I started playing bass and guitar, and that required all of the obsession in me to do that. So I guess this was the beginning of the end of my little adventure game journey, or to be continued, let's say, from 97 to I don't know, 11. So yeah, I hadn't played it until just now. I wasn't in a hurry to play it because of lack of pixel art, just because there's so many fun games to play that are pixel art that I still have to play, but also because I was aware of the situation with the canon. I knew that it didn't really, that it kind of fragmented off from where its actual creator meant it to go, Ron Gilbert, and so that made it even more of I think I'll just not ever play that probably, because especially when Return was announced, because I'm Ron's probably gonna do the third game that he intended on doing, and these won't matter for canon and blah blah blah. But everybody seems to love Curse of Monkey Island. Well, not everybody, but it is a lot of people's favorite Monkey Island. So they had that going for it. And ultimately the reason I played it is because you made me.
I'm not done with you yet either.
Okay, what about, do you have any annotations? Come on now, don't, please.
I love it.
Please don't. Do you have any annotations for, and he says it again as if to just widen the door for entrance.
Anybody not notice that?
Ugh.
Huh?
That's not on me. I didn't name her.
I was supposed to be a boy named Nathan. I came out as a girl, so they just rearranged the letters a little bit.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. Is that why you named one of your sons Nathan?
It is,
Cool.
actually.
Very cool.
It's a whole thing.
Fun fact, if I was going to be a girl, the proposed name my dad gave for me was Shaniqua. I swear to God.
Beautiful.
No,
it's got so much
well,
character.
it's
very
beautiful in case
powerful.
one's listening. But otherwise. Yeah, it's not Hebrew as far as I know, or Italian, so I'm not sure where that came from. But
There was
anyway.
this girl he once knew.
Right.
It's a wild night.
Goodness. Okay. I have an annotation. Oh wait, do you have any? You ladies first.
I mean, I think I misrepresented how funny the actual game is by saying that I didn't laugh out loud at it. Does not mean it wasn't funny. I guess it just means it didn't catch me off guard. And it is kind of hard to make me laugh out loud with the game. So I think it was an unfair statement because it was a really funny game. I had a listener write in and remind me of the moment after Guybrush is done digging the grave and he's holding the bone up in the air and his pants fall down. And I'm using it on my phone right now as the front wallpaper because it is just such a beautiful moment. And it is funny. So I wanted to make sure, because when I was listening back to the episode, I think I made it sound like I didn't think it was funny. It was very funny.
Well, if funny's weird, right? Because it's like I when I hear people say it's so funny, I do expect like laugh out loudness, and I don't think a lot of people really mean that when they say it. I think they just mean lots of short-winded chuckles, things like this, and you smile the whole time. Like I don't know. I maybe I expect too much out of the term "it's so funny." Because even we could extend that to a lot of the Space Quest games, where they're often, I think Space Quest 5 is maybe the only laugh out loud funny Space Quest. The rest are just fun.
Yeah, the whole game has a vibe of funniness. It's in the spirit of funny.
Exactly.
And so the whole time you're playing, you have a 20% grin on your face, and occasionally it moves up to a 45. And then if it makes you laugh out loud, well, that's over 50.
Yeah, I mean, your figures are slightly off from mine, but more or less.
They're just numbers. I don't
I was thinking like
math very well.
23%, something like that, and then 38 would have been. It's fine. It's fine.
It's reasonable.
Yeah, no, I don't mean
It's like the scale of 1 to 10. I'd always thought of it as 5 not being very good and 10 being excellent and 1 being horrible. And then a friend of mine was like, well, you need to just look at it as in 5 is average. 5 is pretty good. Like you'd be aiming for a 5.
Yeah.
Anything over 5 is exceptionally good, and anything under 5 isn't as good as average. And it kind of flipped it all on its head for me there.
No, look, they're technically correct. Absolutely. Like they're not wrong. But we've tried that. We tried that on an episode of Ranking once, and it's just it's not the way it actually works. It's just like culturally speaking, it's nobody does that. But they're right. I mean, you get a failing grade if you do anything less. If you do anything in the 50%, like that's not good enough to pass, and that's half of it. I just this is probably oversharing, especially for our audience, but my son's homeschool grade wasn't so great, so I wrote the teacher. I'm like, hey, so we've been doing like a lot of work, and like he's getting good grades on everything, and it just feels like we've done too much work to have a 57% right now. And anyway, 3 days later, I log in again, and it's an 88 now.
Ooh.
So that's how homeschooling works, people.
I like that.
You just politely complain, and they're like, yeah, you know what, have a bunch more grade points, or however school works. Anyway, what are we talking about? Okay, my annotation for Monkey Island 2 is... dang, I had one. That's why I brought this up, and now it escapes me. One, in retrospect, the art puts me off a little bit. That's something. That's not really what I wanted to say, though. I didn't want to just be mean out of nowhere like that kind of sounded. But there's something a little weird about the art in that game. It's like a little sloppy. Dang, I'm really forgetting it, and I wanted to say it badly, and this is the window passing.
You are saying it badly.
Thank you. Right.
Isn't that what you wanted?
Yeah. No, that helps. That's right. Right. It's good to get confirmations. At least I don't have to wonder.
That's why we do all of this, and other people listen to it, so it can be confirmed by.
Oh, I got it. Thank you for saying words for me. That was like you came in
No
clutch
problem.
there. Okay, so I wanted to say that we got into a bit of like a, I don't know, psychoanalysis there on Guybrush, and I never really closed one little open loop seam metaphor I don't have handy with that, which was to say that if putting everything aside as far as whether or not he's a kid, whether or not that was an illusion, etc., if it was within the canon of Curse of Monkey Island, and none of that was, all of that was reality, let's say, then you could excuse Guybrush for being a bit of a dick, a huge dick, the whole game, because he's a pirate. And I wanted to say that I felt like that might be one thing that a listener might be thinking as I was talking, where it's just like, but hey, he's a pirate. Like, what makes you think he's supposed to be a good guy? Pirates weren't great guys. So, yeah.
No, they weren't known for their niceties, were they? That's a very good point, actually.
Right, and we can extend that to Curse of Monkey Island, where Guybrush is much less of a dick than he was in 2, but he still has some moments, and I think this is balanced better, because in this one you could chalk the petty, or the casual theft and things like that up to, well, one just being an adventure game protagonist as far as casual theft is concerned, but some of the other more specific details that we'll get into to him being a pirate, so...
Yeah, I think they did good. They did good with the callbacks. And if we jump right into the beginning of this game, the first thing that I noticed, of course, knowing the end of the last game, is that Guybrush is out there on the open ocean on a circus ride, a bumper car.
A bumper car, right. Okay, so let me get your thoughts on this. Some people, from what I've loosely gathered from just reception of fans, didn't like how, on one hand, they kind of entirely disregarded the end of the second one, but then later in this game, they maybe overcorrected and over-addressed it, where they didn't even have to. So to focus here just on the beginning, what did you make of the beginning of the game, where you start out just floating at sea, somewhat lost, considering how the second game ended?
It put my imagination into gear, not having watched anything about it or really thought about it since we did the last episode, and having done sort of a little bit of delving into it. I was like, well, okay, of course, it's new people making the game. They want to tie it into the last game. Putting him on something to do with the Ferris ride makes you think that either the curse is lifted and now he's an adult again. Okay. Or he's been in that amusement park the whole time, and there was like a dip in time maybe, or maybe he stayed and he grew up and he finished everything at the amusement park and he fell asleep like Sleeping Beauty, and he woke up and he was 20, because they've made so many references to him being 20 years old, and I think he was 8 originally. So they made references to him being a little kid and being 8 later on. So it makes me think, like, why is he here, and why is he an adult, and why is he still on a fair ride? It did leave questions unanswered right at the very beginning, which I thought was kind of neat for stimulating the imagination.
Right. Yeah.
What about you?
I gave it no thought, and I went forward with a childlike wonder. Like, considering we just played that game a week ago, it's amazing how little thought I gave it. I'm just like, oh, okay. Like, we're just in the ocean. Like, it took me until like 30 minutes into the game to stop and actually question the intro, to be like, wait, where were we last time? Oh yeah, that's right. We were like kids in a theme park, and now we're just floating at sea. So I didn't really think about it. I remember seeing the bumper car and being like, that's weird.
Right.
But somehow enough on brand to just work. And yeah, I didn't think much of it. And then okay. So then as it clicked, it did click like 30 or some minutes later. It was by the time we get into the ship and we see Wally again with the monocle. Well, this time with the eye patch.
Because at first I'm like, hey, that kind of looks like Wally. And then I'm like, oh, it is. And then it turns out things don't go well for him throughout this whole game anyway.
Right. It was seeing Wally again for seeing him again for the first time. It was seeing Wally that made me think, okay, so maybe their angle here was like the explosion happens where you kind of lose track of Wally in the second game. I remember we had mentioned it too, how they just kind of
Where did Wally go?
Yeah, they just don't address where's Wally, which is the name of the book for our friends in the UK. But anyway, so I remember thinking that and then being like, well, maybe they just cut out everything on the island. Like all of that is just, it just never happened. So basically you explode yourself and Wally out of the thing and then you land in the ocean and you're drifting and now we start this game. And
so maybe the whole ghost pirate thing never even really happened. And after the explosion happened, that was it. The rest of it was kind of imagined.
Right. But that immediately falls apart now as I'm saying it out loud, because how would Wally have had time to get that job as a pirate and be wearing a patch and things like that?
Because he's changed his whole life.
Yeah.
Between then and now, he's no longer the same man. And you have to assume as a map maker, so meek, he had to develop those skills and those strengths and those talents over time to not only become a pirate, to be a pirate.
Yeah, he does seem like he's still pretty much that meek person underneath. He folds really quickly. So maybe, well, let's just at least say he would have needed the time to get the job to be the pirate and to buy a patch, none of which could have happened, in between an explosion and drifting, Guybrush drifting in his direction. So yeah, all this is to say, I don't know, besides purposeful vagueness, what they wanted for the intro, but it still works because like I said, I went into it with a childlike wonder, and everybody else who played this game waited years to play it, and I waited a week, and I still didn't really doubt it or give it much thought.
I was right into the conspiracy theories right away because I love a good mystery. Even if they're going around telling people what it is or what it isn't, I like to come to my own conclusions, whatever they are.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. All right.
So we've got a great little game here with a great little cast, and we've kind of laid it out. So we're going to talk through the game together with you. And it wasn't until today when I was watching the credits that I realized that the lemonade salesman is Gary Coleman.
Right. Very nice. Yeah, I see you're very excited about that fact. You're like, we're getting right to this lemonade stand, kid.
Well, it's funny because he's such a jerk. He's this kid and he sells you lemonade. It's bottomless lemonade. So every time you order one, and then it pours through the hole in the bottom of the cup into a hole in the desk into the pitcher underneath. So all he has to do is keep serving the same cup of lemonade all day long.
I just wonder if Gary Coleman was like a secret fan of point-and-click adventures, or was he that starved for work? Because we're talking like a C-list character in the third series of a game series, third entry of a game series. Like that is, I would think you would do that for fun.
I think the only game he was in
Portal
Postal
2. Postal 2, thank you. That's right.
Yeah, in 2003 as himself.
Which was a completely bonkers Easter egg, or not even Easter egg, but part of that game. And where he gets called, they're like, we need a child star now, and they call him in, and it's all insane, basically.
And he gets to be himself in Robot Chicken, Barry the Banana, and miscellaneous Nazis.
All right, let's get us on a track here.
Good call.
Okay, all right. So, look, listen. We've escaped from the ship. We've collected a plastic hook and a bunch of other crap. I think there was a puzzle that they maybe cut from this game, because you're underneath the ship and you get the wooden nickels, and there's a blue inflation device, like a little jokey giraffe thing that goes around your waist, and you don't get it. But when you float up to the surface in the cutscene animation, you're wearing it.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that was cut from it. Because, adventure games don't do that. They don't like, this one's on us. Like, you always have to get the thing. Mm-hmm. So that was a little bit strange. I thought that for the theme of this game, so there's another thing I wanted to run by you and see what you think here, is a lot of people, from what I'm gathering from like reviews and, fan forum posts and things like this, is that people have found Monkey 3 to be a bit of an outlier compared to the other two, and I disagree, kind of strongly. And I stand on a high enough horse to say this, having just played 3 of these in 5 weeks. that's not a feat that's often like done by fans or players of these games, and obviously that would be a weird brag if it was a brag. I don't I don't mean it that way. Like anybody can technically do that. Sorry, I just got it in my head that it sounded like a brag, and now that's really funny.
Three
I played
games in
3 of
5
these in
weeks.
5
You
weeks.
try that.
You guys just sit back and listen to me, the pro, on this kind of shit, because. but okay, I don't see 3 as so much of an outlier. I think I see 2 as the outlier, because here's an example of why 3 was considered somewhat of an outlier. Is that LeChuck is more of like a Saturday morning cartoon villain. And the whole game has a bit of a Saturday morning cartoon vibe. It is a little, I don't know. I don't even want to say more fun, because I find the whole series is essentially a comedy. Like it's not, and I guess that brings me to say is I think 2 is the weird one in the sense that 2 is like the darker of the 3. Like LeChuck is more menacing in the second game. And I saw one specific review that was criticizing the third and saying that LeChuck was too Saturday morning cartoony and too kind of buffoonish and over the top. And he is probably perhaps more over the top. I'm not sure to what degree the animations create that feeling for us. But like, yes, he was super menacing in the second one. He's not really menacing at all in this one. But in the first one, he's like a little bit goofy in the first one too. Like he's definitely not entirely competent, I guess you'd say. Like there's like a goofiness about him in the first one. And then with Guybrush being a total dick in the second game, like I don't know. I feel like the first and third games are more similar than anything else. What do you think?
I don't know. I kind of see them all working together, but that there was, okay, I see in the first one they were creating something new, so it had that energy to it. I see in the second one they'd already done it once, and so it was a team of old hats, and they were kind of dicking around and having fun a little bit and being sassy and having attitude. And then I see with the third one, they had to do a brand new team. So they had to sort of reorchestrate the setup of the game a little bit more like the first one, because they had to show it is still the same series. You're still going to like it, even though Ron Gilbert isn't here. So the people that did it, I feel, took a lot of homage from the earlier games to create the new version of what is an already accredited series. So I think that's kind of why you get some of the same energy with the first one and the third one.
Right. Okay, that's interesting because I'm trying to do better than the new factor, but that's all I got right now. So that works.
That's why I think they worked so hard with the nods and the homages and things to really keep that flow going, because they had to, because the people would be like, well, who the heck are you guys, and why should we play your Monkey Island game? You're no Ron Gilbert. And with the first one, they had to do it right from scratch, because they're just like, well, who the hell are you? And why the hell would we play this game about monkeys? But the second one is a bunch of people that have already made a game about monkeys, talking about stuff that they'd want to do with it. Like, oh, imagine if Guybrush did this or this instead differently. But I don't know, different energy.
Do you think that anybody really noticed that it wasn't Ron Gilbert, though? Because we've talked about this before, where LucasArts didn't really prop up their designers like Sierra did. In our interview with Ken Williams, Ken was like, we tried to take the approach that books take, where it's like you put the author's name as big as the name of the book. And LucasArts didn't do that at all.
No, I didn't even know who Ron Gilbert was until like 2018.
Right. It's really uncommon that you would see their name on a box. I think you see Brian Moriarty's on Loom, and you might see Ron Gilbert's on one of the Monkey Islands. I'm not sure. But the point is like, it wasn't. I'm wondering how much the audience really even knew. That doesn't I don't know, take away from your point, because the team is new and they know they're new, so they're bringing in that energy, to your point, right? So either way, but I just wonder if the audience knew at all that it was like a different writers. I guess another thing I'm trying to say too is I didn't really feel like this game was different. I didn't get like a different energy from this game than the other Monkey Islands. It's definitely not as dark and dick-headed as the second one. And I really like the second
tricky.
one.
And this one's more like you're trickier in this one, but you're not, like, I mean, because you steal a tooth and you do all these other random things, like you steal the guy's gun and you blow up his banjo, but it's like, it's in a bit of a different spirit.
Right.
Somehow.
Yeah, it's just not as mean-spirited as that second one. Because, I don't know. I don't think it betrayed any of its characters very much, and it feels like a Monkey Island game. Like, it really doesn't feel like a whole different team had to like take this up and Yeah, I don't notice a big difference, I guess, at all between any of the characters, except for just a little louder. Everyone's a little louder.
Mm-hmm.
But that feels like an evolution of the series. Like that's what happened to Space Quest. Even with the same designers, where just like as you go along and you get more comfortable with who the character is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. One thing I got interested in too was finding out like what Ron Gilbert thought about this whole thing. So let me tackle that now, and then we'll move through the game a little more.
Go ahead.
So when he was first asked about this game, it was in 1998, and he said it was quote pretty good, and that he was fearing the worst when he played it, which he did say in a little bit of like a grumpy. I mean, right, that's his whole thing, right? Grumpy gamer, but like in a little bit of like, well, I was expecting it to be terrible, and it wasn't terrible. So it wasn't. Yeah, I don't. There was a little backhandedness, I guess you could say, about the compliment, but ultimately he said that it was pretty good. But what he said that I thought was weird was that he didn't like the love story, and said that Elaine wouldn't have fallen in love or married Guybrush, and that she would have thought of him more as like a brother or a little brother.
Which is funny because that's like the whole very beginning of the game. You give her a ring, but it's a cursed ring, and she turns to solid gold.
Yeah,
And then he leaves her on the beach, and then they're like, "Hey, shouldn't you keep an eye on her?" And she's like, "Oh shit."
yeah, that was great. That was a good laugh. Yeah, you did hide her, right?
Yes. I'll be right back.
But to the Gilbert thing, so it's like he's basically saying that they wouldn't have fallen in love, and I don't get that because he has them kind of fall in love immediately in the first game. Mm-hmm. So like why like he I just again I thought it was super strange because he has them like immediately fall in love on the dock in the first game, and he does have like he continues a bit of a love arc in the second game. Even though it's it's not concluded, but she's still like ultimately like they have like she considers getting back together with him in the second game, and she's there for him when he needs it in the third game. Mm-hmm. And so in other words, in his first two games, like there's a lot of Elaine and Guybrush having a romantic thing being involved. He introduced it, but then like he criticizes the third and saying that she wouldn't have ever fallen in love with him, and I just find that super weird. Like I don't know what he means. Sorry for any echoey stomping noises in the background. My son is stoked on something in the other room, and it's making my mic jump. So anyway, I thought that was weird. But anyway, okay. Look, you don't have to bite on that. That's just something that I thought was weird. In 2008, he softened his tone and said that the game was great and they did an excellent job of capturing the spirit and humor of the series. So he came around on it, because remember that first interview was like the year after it came out, so he was probably pretty bitter, understandably. And then he comes around on it 10 years later, and then he gives in another interview in like 2020-ish where he's like, I did originally plan to do a trilogy, and I've always had it in my notebook as Monkey 3A, and it would have picked up where 2 left off, and then of course this is what Return to Monkey Island became. So
Right. Which is the big question. Do you continue on in the series, or do you play Return as them being the only ones that are technically canon? Because there's still a few other games between now and then.
Yes, I have a proposal for you, live on the air.
Ooh, oh my goodness. I'm nervous all of a sudden.
It's okay, I can edit it.
Okay.
I think we should play Return to Monkey Island next.
I do.
And I think we...
It's a proposal, right?
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Sorry, people.
I think we should skip Escape from Monkey Island, and maybe what we could do is play. Nah, let's not do that to ourselves. Let's look at like a couple reviews of Escape and give it like 10-15 minutes at the start of the Return episode, and just tidy up the loose end of this branch of canon.
It's close to what I was going to suggest skipping straight to that as well, but doing that, putting 10 or 15 or 20 minutes into the other ones. But I suppose this is about close enough.
I have the exact same plan, except for I don't pluralize other ones. Like just Escape, because the Telltale thing, like now that's like 10 years later after Escape, and I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I've never considered the Sam and Max. People love the Sam and Max Telltale games too, so I shouldn't even get into that murky territory. And I also just don't want to play them.
No, it's a lot, and I'm surprised. I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm on a journey and I need to complete it now. I already own the newest Monkey Island game, so it feels silly not to utilize it.
Right. It feel well it's like the curse got away with it because it was an awesome game, but it's kind of like let's just let that canon go, let it just drift off into the sea, let it go, and then jump into Return where it's like the true canon for the completion of the trilogy. And I'm quite excited about it because I really like Curse of Monkey Island. I think this is I don't know. I really like 2. I'd like 2 a lot, but this is probably better. This is probably the best Monkey Island game so far.
I'm probably going to stick with I like them all in the order with which they were made and the order in which I played them.
Boo.
Trope.
Yeah. Hate that answer.
It's my favorite one. So anyways, you're on an island and no surprise being Guybrush, you need to assemble a crew. Luckily, all of the people you need on your crew are already hanging out in a barbershop because they've formed a singing barbershop. What would you call it? A triplet? Because it's not a quartet.
Right.
'Cause
I
there's
walked
3
right
of
into
them.
that. Yep.
They were looking for the 4th, and Guybrush was trying to audition. This game did something. Okay, so they both used the iMuse system, this game and the other game. And in the other game, I was saying it was there, but it was subtle. As you go in and out of different places, the music would subtly change, and it was really cool. And I feel this game did such a cool job at doing that, but not just with music, but with singing and with people talking. Because the first thing I noticed in the barbershop is everybody was having their own conversations and everybody was doing their own bloody thing, but you could talk and interrupt, and it wasn't jaggy and it wasn't confusing, and it all flowed like right into it in the game, and it was very impressive.
It was. It was the panning of the audio was noticeable and really cool. Like they would use the panning of this. I think it was in the barbershop and the restaurant. There's a few examples, but you could hear
like
voices
Murray
to the
at the
far
end
right. Yeah, the far distant right side or left side of the room, which was really cool. And then it was also like a complete masterclass in character theming. The way that it was composed was really, really, really cool. Like I mean, it was exactly how they would do it theatrically. Michael Land did the composition for this, as he did with most. I don't think all, but nearly all of the LucasArts games. Like he did all the Monkey Island games, including the non-LucasArts Monkey Island games, and including Return. But he also did like Sam and Max and Day of the Tentacle and Throttle and Fate of Atlantis and Grim Fandango. And his work in Monkey Island was really cool because he gave every character their own, not their own theme, but a different take on the room's theme.
So smooth, right? Like, my God.
Yeah, and it was further using the iMuse system, which they did use more in this game. So if you were an example for listeners would be like if you were talking to Haggis and then you switch to Cutthroat, Bill, the music would stay the same, but for Bill, let's say like an oboe would disappear and a flute would appear. And just to give it like a little different vibe, and that's not a specific example for anybody feeling particularly pedantic out there, but just for an example, like one of the instruments would disappear and another one would appear, and it's not super noticeable. It's just a subconscious kind of change in atmosphere as you talk to the different characters. It's just brilliant. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. Like it's the kind of stuff I'd be interested in doing if music was my only thing to do on the game, because it would take forever. Anyway, that was really cool and really theatric. So
And the whole place was really theatric.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the whole thing, they do a really good job of capturing that kind of Disney-like vibe in this game.
They do. The barbershop was great, and the people that played it, the main barber's played by the guy that plays Scrooge McDuck, which you can tell
Haggis,
too
yeah.
as soon as he starts talking, or even
Alan Young.
Cutthroat Bill is by the guy who's done all the modern representations of Eeyore. That's Greg Berger. So, he's just really good at kind of having that gruff, don't talk to me kind of a vibe going on.
Right. Yeah, it's really cool. This little era of adventure games was really fun when voice acting became mainstream. So I don't know, what would you say, like 94 or 5 onwards, where it was like when the adventure games were on CD only, let's say, when there wasn't a floppy version as well. You got so many cool like Saturday morning cartoon stars, and like you said with Alan Young, Scrooge McDuck being Haggis, like your go-to Scottish guy at the time, and that was really cool. One note we missed on, I wanted to say that was a really funny bit, was in Act 1 when you're in the voodoo lady's priestess's room and you take the pin out of the voodoo doll, they do a cutaway to some guy, and he's just like Man, that was a relief. Like the pin's been stuck in him for a long time. That was so funny.
That was funny. And there was lots to do. And okay, here's where the first reason I kind of have a problem with hand painted games, as much as I love them, is, and I said the same about Monkey Island and it was pixel art, but even more so with this game, I had a really hard time deciding what was in the background art and what is an object you can interact with. So I found myself doing the sweep on every screen, running your mouse across, ignoring the actual pictures and just seeing if it would pick up words so that I could kind of get the gist of where to interact with.
Right. Yeah. 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 Again, I hate to beat it to death, but that's something I don't like about highlighters because it takes away the natural exploration and turns it into a strategic, I don't know, like calculated maneuver where I'm just gonna scan the room like a robot might.
Which is what I was just doing without the highlight spots.
Yeah, and you get into that mode and then you just do it in every room. You just scan the room and it's like I'm not crazy about that. I understand that I kind of conversely I like how things don't stick out though. Like I always find it jarring and weird when like the item you need is, Sierra did that a lot, where the item you need is like brighter or just more higher resolution or something than just blatantly not hand painted into the background, right? It's like an object in front of a painting, obviously. So yeah, I guess neither's ideal is what I'm saying. Which brings me to I've ended up playing this game in what I found out was a really weird way. How did you play it actually, let's back way up. Did you play this through Scum?
I believe that the version was Scum, yeah, because it was just through GOG.
Oh, it had a launcher. Okay.
I owned it already. Yeah, I already owned it.
Interesting. I wonder if it was Scum. No, it might have been, because Scum not just, but only within like the last year and a half or so actually started supporting this game. So you might have played it in DOS. Okay, so I played it in Scum, and this is if anybody out there knows sort of situation. I almost we only had a half hour before we were supposed to record, and when I thought of this, but I was like, damn, I should have asked One Short Eye to ask Sluicebox to see if he knew. But when I launched the game in Scum, it had an option to restore content. And as the Scum team often does, or sometimes does, they'll find things that are like commented out in the code and fix them and put them back in the game.
Did not get that option. It was just, you want to play the one with lots of puzzles or the one with not very many puzzles?
Yeah,
and of course I picked normal because obviously.
Yeah, you wouldn't get that from, even if it was Scum. GOG has INIs and little bin scripts that just launch it for you. So yeah, that's right. But I'm curious for anybody out there who might know this information, like what restored content did I get by clicking that? Because I did click it, like, yeah, give me all the things. So I don't know, like maybe I ended up with like an extra puzzle or something. Like I have no idea what restored content actually was. What did the Scum team unearth and allow me to see that often isn't seen in the game? I would love to know.
Shout out to the Scum team, by the way. They've been working on the Dynamics titles, Heart of China, Willy Beamish, and well on its way. There's a lot of different versions of them, especially of Willy Beamish. There's the talkie and the other one, and it's a lot of work. But the floppy disk one is pretty much getting close to being regularly playable, and just it's so cool to see that. Isn't that amazing that this is all happening in this day and age? I'm so thankful for that. I like to bring up what they're doing because the people in working with Scum VM are changing the face of gaming forever, because I want to butter them up, because I want them to consider Panzer General 3, because it cannot be played on any modern system unless you have a virtual machine at all, anywhere. And we have people out in the circuits that are just out there trying to research it, and they can't get it to work. If by any chance you figured out a way to get it to work, we have the original CD. Let me know.
Wow, that was shameless. Unbelievable. Using this platform for your own gain, I swear. I never thought I'd see the day.
I want what I really would love is just an executable that will somehow work somewhere, or for somebody to build a virtual machine so I can play it within. But we had an XP computer and we had to take it down to facilitate me doing this. And it's a game that's very missed by people.
Well, listen, when you're done with your shameless sales pitch, I would like to remind our listeners to buy The Phantom Fellows, out now.
Please do.
Fantastic. Well, I'm glad Scum is working on Willy Beamish. I believe that the Dynamix games, like no one of their two games uses the same engine, so they can't just be like, backwards code the engine and then all the games will follow. Like I'm pretty sure they have to do games every game itself at a time. So
It is like with the talkie version of Willie Beamish, every single character portrait and everything it's all its own individual everything. You have to work with every one of them, not like this is all of the talk icons for this one character. So
right.
it's just an unbelievable amount of work.
Well, I think they should let themselves off the hook for the talkie version. Gross. Okay, so so we're talking about Scum VM, the restore content. If anybody knows what that is, that's cool. One shout out if you're listening. One shout out if you're listening. I don't know what that accent even was. Ask Sluicebox what's up with that.
Or
have
ask
your guy
what
get
that
in touch
accent
with my
was.
guy. Yeah, exactly. Either yeah.
Sluicebox just knows stuff, so just ask him.
He is a
And
knower of things. Yes.
Yeah, he's very knowable.
So there's that. The other thing I wanted to say is that, one, the context for what I'm about to say relies heavily on the audience understanding that I accepted this immediately and didn't try anything else. So I played this game as I usually do on my main computer, which it has a giant trackpad, and Anna makes fun of me for using a trackpad. That's fine, but for all of the MacBook users out there, the trackpad is dope. It's the best way to... Chad, you get it. Somebody gets it, and it's probably just Chad. That's all I need. That's all
great.
I need.
Chad, you rock, by the way. You've been out there on the forums talking about the Phantom Fellows all over the place. I see you on Reddit. I see you in other places. Thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you, Chad. Love you, dude. So yeah, and thank you for, in this current context, for at least understanding the trackpad thing, because it's the best way to computer. Anyway, when I right-clicked on the trackpad in Curse of Monkey Island, again, immediately, and I asked no questions, it pulled up the inventory.
Yeah, that's what it does. Yeah.
Okay.
Right mouse button.
Okay, then I do have questions for you then. Okay, so then I tried control click. Again, for all of us douchey Mac users, control click is another way to right click, because Macs have never been a two-button format. Always just the one button. It's plenty. Okay, well now, all right, I'll finish my little thing and then I'll ask you what the fuck. So then I looked, I quickly Googled controls and I found there's keyboard controls for Curse of Monkey Island. And I love keyboard controls, man. If anybody's played Phantom Fellows and you saw the preachy tutorial in the beginning of my game, that's like, I know you fuckers are going to point and click, but you shouldn't. You really should play it this way. And I know none of you are going to, but you should. And you should, by the way. It's the superior way to play at least my game. But anyway, Anna disagrees. She's played it more than I have. Don't listen to her. It's a trap. It's so much better with the keys, I swear. You don't have to cycle through the mouse thing. All right, anyway. So I saw there was keys controls, and I got really excited. So it was U for use, E for examine, bit of a stretch. It should have been L for look, but whatever. And then T for talk. So I played Curse of Monkey Island in my ideal fashion, which is using the keyboard. And I had, it was so precise. It was so clean and precise, and I felt engaged, like I had things to do. I wasn't just sitting back, whatevering. I don't have an ending for that sentence, but the point is I played it with keyboard controls, and it was awesome. And then doing more research for this and seeing review videos, et cetera, I realized that it was a verb coin, because I'm like, this is weird, right? Why would they... I didn't want to question it because I really liked it. But in the back of my head, I was like, this is a little weird that there's keyboard controls for this game. So what the fuck, Anna? How did you get the coin?
You hold down the left mouse button for an extra half second and it pops up.
Are you serious?
Yep.
I played this game for like 8-9 hours, and I never clicked one time long enough to have seen it. That's wild.
Honestly, you just have to hold it down. Instead of just click, it's like click one. And then it pops right up.
Jesus Christ. I must have clicked at least... How many clicks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll? Like, how many clicks does it take to finish this game? Probably like 21,000, and not one of them was long enough to have seen a glimpse of the verb coin. That's fucking wild.
That's funny. Yeah, it's just that little bit longer than you'd feel comfortable clicking.
Right. I prefer not to discomfort myself in such manners, you see.
I found the verb coin at the beginning a bit of a problem because I kept moving the mouse in the wrong direction and it would disappear again. Automatically by the time I was done, like the second act, that stopped happening. So my brain must have figured it out because I was used to verb coin from games like, say, Full Throttle and stuff like that.
You should have used the keyboard controls, first of all. And I mean in the Phantom Fellows, but also in this game.
Right.
And second of all, I don't have a second of all. I just wanted to say that. No, you know what? I'll make up a second of all on the fly. I hated the verb coin in Full Throttle. I've never liked a verb coin.
Mm-hmm.
I like the
Maybe
idea
there's
of it.
keyboard commands in Full Throttle too.
Maybe we'll find out eventually.
When we do that episode.
It doesn't seem like we're stopping doing this show, so we'll eventually find out, I guess.
No, there was a time when Paul and I are like, you know what? I don't think there's anything left to talk about. It was about a year ago. And he's like, yeah, no, not really. And we're like, okay, well, we'll just see what there is, and we'll throw a few more shows out there. Not that we thought it would ending. We're like, no other way. And now we're like, we have a lot of things to talk about again. So that's good. I mean, you never know, right?
It's become perpetual at this point. We could start circling back to the first few episodes and redo it again. Mm-hmm. But there's still just there's an embarrassing amount of great adventure games we still haven't played yet, such as Curse of Monkey Island for me until this week.
It's just we were really like sometimes we get busy, especially with game development and design and things like that, and it gets really, really hard to play a game. Especially, I think, Paul, as you were heading into the last year before releasing your game, playing a game meant you weren't doing something that you needed to do imperatively with your own game, and so it was more of a burden. So we left playing games for a while out, and I mean cycles will come and go. Of course, sometimes you'll have more time than other times.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like early in development right now, like I'm just doing art, everything's kind of chill. But then you start feeling like when you have beta testers and a release date and all that starts to get crunchy, and I'm like homeschool strum and all the stuff people already probably know, so it gets a little much. But yeah, I don't want to stop, and I've kind of reprogrammed my mind a little this last few months to just not get through these games, but to like just actually enjoy them, like to create space, man. To create space around myself and be like, I'm going to have fun playing this game. I'm getting a pile of snacks, and I'm going to just play adventure games because I like playing adventure games. Even to the point where I remember with I think Monkey Island 1 or something, I was just like, do you like playing adventure games though? Because it's like the last few games we had played felt really grindy and really
Me too.
just get it done
that
for the
too.
show. Right? Okay, good. It wasn't just me.
Even my husband, he's just like, do you even like doing this? Because you're just sitting there complaining about how stupid this is right now.
Right.
And I'm like, no, I'm having fun. He's like, oh, okay.
Having theoretical fun.
You know what? This game fucking did it because I'm playing it next to Jacob, who's 14, and he kept looking over. And at first he was just looking over and watching. And then he started calling out what dialogue he wanted me to hit. Like, hey, say that to him.
Right.
See if you can do that. See if you can do that. The next thing you know, I get up to go to the bathroom. He sits down and he just starts playing it. And he figured out the puzzle about getting to the secret cabana and going across the hot sand with the wet towels. And he was getting those dopamine hits I've longed for him to get for so long. And so every time, and he's like, you're not using a walkthrough, are you, Mom? You're not. He bugged me, right? Like, come on, let's figure this stuff out. And I'm like, geez, yeah. I'm like, I do need to slow down and figure this out with you. I didn't remember everything about it. So he made me slow down, and he was with me right through to the end. And then I was watching like overviews of other people playing through the game, and he's watching them with me, and James is watching them with me. Like, this game was good enough and enough of a cartoon that it brought the whole family in, and they all wanted to know what was happening next. These are not adventure game players by any means.
Yeah, this game, I feel the same way about specifically this game, because I started doing that creating space for myself to make sure I enjoy the game. Like if my grandpa used to always say when I was younger, if you're gonna do something and you know you're gonna do it, then don't complain, because you're gonna do it anyway. So why make it miserable for yourself and everybody else? Like, if you're gonna take the trash out and like you're gonna take it out, then don't fetch about it. Don't actually, it was the Italian grandpa. It doesn't matter.
Don't do the thing where you're like, fine, I'll do it then. Because if you've made the determination to fine, I'll do it then force a little smile on and say, okay, let's do it.
And that was the spirit of his advice, was then just, you might as well get the credit for doing it. So be pleasant about it. Like, hey, I got you, bro. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, what a good guy. He's doing it with a smile. And like, you don't make it miserable for everybody. And so anyway, that was kind of this spirit in which I tried to play Monkey Island 1 with, to return to just enjoying playing these games. Don't look at it as like something that's in the way of me developing my game, or the other things that I get into or whatever. Like, just enjoy it. Like, what are we doing here? If you're going to do it, then have fun doing it. And so I did with Monkey Island 1, and I had fun playing Monkey Island 1, and I don't really like Monkey Island 1 that much.
Right.
As a matter of fact, every episode since the Monkey Island 1 episode, I get a little more real with the listeners as to how I actually felt about it. But it's also real with myself, where I'm like, yeah, it's fine. It's just a fine game. It's a good game, for sure. But like, yeah, it was fine. I don't know. But I still made sure
Part of it is you taking into account what other people say about it. Because, like, it's like somebody raving a restaurant to you because it's the best restaurant in the world and you have these totally high expectations. But then it ends up being like a pretty good restaurant, but one of the waiters was like having an off day. And because your expectations were set so high that it was the best in the world, you judge it even more harshly than you would have if you had no expectation of it in the first place.
Well said. Well said, and I'll add to it's half that and then half trying to handle things with a degree of grace for which people, for like the games that people really revere. And that's not something I've always done. Like I've upset some of our friends, I'm sorry, Eric, about the way I talked about King's Quest VI, for example. And I do want to be, yes, still honest, but a little more careful with like really beloved IPs and games to people. And so I wanted to handle Monkey Island 1 with a little bit of care. But as we get farther away from it,
I broke up with that girl ages ago. I know I told you she was great, but my goodness, did she ever snore at night?
Right, it's not dissimilar to that. And so to continue this character arc that you've mentioned here, playing Monkey Island 2 was even easier to enjoy because I really, really liked that game. But then Curse of Monkey Island was like the return to the addiction to adventure games, where I'm just like, this is so fun though. Like the puzzles in this game are some of the best puzzles in adventure games, period.
Yeah.
Like the banjo puzzle is so much fun. It's so good.
Jacob figured out that whole puzzle. He was playing the game with me and he directed exactly. He's like, Mom, quick, while he's playing it, pick up the other gun. And I didn't even clue into it that fast. I'm just like, what, where? Oh, like,
right.
It was so good.
Right, I had a similar moment. Strum played the first 2 acts with me, and we were doing the banjo one together, and he was super into like the quickly writing it down aspect of it. Like, go, 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 it's 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and then 3, and then 4. I'm like, how many strings are there? Is that 5 or 6? And just, this really fun, frantic moment as we both scribbled down which string he was hitting on our index card at hand, and that old school feeling of having to write a physical note down, like we used to take notes for Colonel's Bequest, all the best moments of adventure games growing up in that analog. Even though I didn't experience it, for you and for some of the listeners, like the feeling of looking shit up in Carmen Sandiego, like just that extension into your own actual world as you play the games. And I've got to feel that with Strum, and that was super cool. And it was just such a brilliant puzzle, like a great way to utilize music. Banjos are often tuned in open tuning, meaning a banjo is the instrument that you would use if you wanted open notes to be randomly struck. It's the perfect, it was brilliant. Like I'm sure that either a musician or Michael Land was brought in for that banjo puzzle, because only a musician would be like, it needs to be the banjo. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but like it unequivocally is a banjo. You could argue a guitar could be open tuned for slide guitar playing and things like this, but a banjo is naturally, I'm being nerdy. Point is, like, it was very exciting, and the puzzles in this game were really, really good. There were some bullshit ones that I think I probably jotted down in my notes, but I think, like, I don't know, pound for pound, it was maybe like up there as a contender for best puzzles of in the classic era. Like there was so many awesome puzzles in this game.
Awesome and funny, like getting the scissors out of the ceiling at the barbershop, even like getting the jawbreaker out of the pirate.
Right.
Like so many of these puzzles were funny, and the animation for them was just beautiful. I loved getting my pirate crew together and like getting lice and having it in your inventory, or maggots, things like that. It's hilarious. You just pop them in your inventory for later.
Yeah, and there was a lot of shoving people, which was fun.
I loved the shoving people so much. And Jacob caught on to that too right away at the end of the game. He's like, go push him. Go push the
Right,
dog,
right.
right?
Yeah, that
He's
was
like, put the hand icon on him now.
it was really well done because they teach you it earlier in the game, and then by the time you end up at the Carnival of the Damned, you kind of have nothing to do and nothing to use. It's like, well, we could shove them, and then that works, and then you shove the other one too. Why not? I mean, okay, you don't shoving the other one doesn't actually work, but it's still fun. You still get
Still
responses.
fun to try.
Yeah,
And
and
you start putting your mouth. I like how you use like, okay, so you didn't use the verb coin, but in the inventory, for example, if you wanted to use your mouth on it to blow on it or
Yes.
whatever it was, you would. It was really so intuitive.
Yes, that's another note I had down there, and I think it was really brilliant and really fun, and I'd like to do something like that going forward. Like to anybody listening who ends up going on to play the next Phantom Fellows game, when there's a puzzle in that game that you have to talk or mouth on, you'll know that it came from playing Curse. Because I was playing that, I'm just like, this is so satisfying and so cool and it's a really intelligent way to sneak another facet out of adventure games, like to be able to do more with less interface and less icons. Like you can only look, talk, and interact, and it's like, why aren't we utilizing talk more? Like it is a mouth-based thing. Gesture, I guess you'd say. So yeah, that was really cool, and you use it quite a bit, like quite a lot in the game, from the gum to the balloon to
Blowing out like a oil lamp later in the game.
Right, blowing it. Yeah, or blowing the balloon, like once it's inflated, you have to blow it across to the chicken. That was kind of a bullshit puzzle, but still, that was...
There was some of those. You know what makes it all better though? The addition of Murray throughout the game, and like you have this really funny relationship. Murray's he's just the skull, right? It's reoccurring skull, and you keep like finding him and losing him everywhere you go.
Yeah.
And he's also not that it's a well-known character, but I was briefly referencing this before the episode that he's also Jebba the Hop. He's the research attendant that didn't pay sick pay on the ship 86, the Captain Kilbasa's ship in Space Quest 6.
Oh, okay. So the voice actors in Space Quest 6?
Yeah, from Jebba the Hop, the guy running that the research attendant station that's on the ship.
Very cool.
On the 6th one. I just thought that was kind of a neat duality, because he's done a bunch of other stuff too, but that's the role that means the most to me.
Yeah, right.
But you don't actually get to like pick him up or have him or bring him with you. He's there as a funny background character, almost like just like a rolling joke, haha, because he's just ahead all throughout the game.
Yeah, I was expecting a little more of him just because of how beloved he is, but I'm not saying that we needed more. I thought he was going to be more of like a constant character. I think it was done better this way, not the way I was expecting him, but he's so renowned that I thought like we'd see a lot of Murray, and you don't. You see enough of him for sure, but I don't know. I thought he was going to play a bigger role. Because you use him, you do pick him up once. I'm trying to remember why. It's like in other words, he's the solution to one of the puzzles. Oh, to get the lantern from the pallbearer, from the Undertaker dude. Where you scare him with Murray's shadow.
Yeah, so you do pick him up briefly just to do that trick, but that doesn't get him out of there either or anything really. Well, I guess it does get him out of there because he leaves.
Right, he unlocks the tomb for you, the crypt door, opens the crypt door for us.
So once you get your pirate crew together at the barbershop and you end up on the ship, they're just like, that's great, we're here on the ship, but it turns out we just want to sing. And this is, again, a freaking beautifully done part of the game, because they're singing and you can put in your own chorus, but you can choose the chorus. This had my kid right in there. He wanted to keep making sure I picked all of them so he could hear him sing them with the pirate, but it was seamless, man.
Yeah, that was really good too. That was quite clever. I paid close attention to how they were doing that as far as fading the music out, accounting for the fact that the player is going to randomly interject at any time, and it was it was pretty slick. That was pretty well done.
It was, and then we have our arcade sequences and things too, of course. But
with the way you break on the puzzle you just mentioned with the singing, the way you break out of that is brilliant too. But using orange as a word that they can't rhyme. And then one of the guys says door hinge for orange, and I thought that was really clever too. I can't remember the song, but I think on the Marshall Mathers LP 2,
He does rhyme with orange.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah,
he does.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you know, right. Yeah,
I
and
know
he uses
exactly.
door hinge and a Ford, yeah. Yeah, so that made me smile, made me think of that song, and yeah, that was they both thought door hinge. Um,
Well, surely, what was it? I'm getting sick of you guys and your rhyming as what he says. Otherwise, it's like, yeah, we'll surely, oh, yeah, right. Something to do with scurvy, something orange. Anyways, the point is, it was seamlessly done. And same like the arcade sequence for this game was also nicely done because you can choose for your crew to help you, or, I mean, and that's later on in the game, I guess. We have to go deal with the other island first, don't we?
no,
The Pirates Mutiny first, or is this before the Pirates Mutiny?
this is before that. So yeah, no, you're on the right track here. We interrupt the singing, and then Haggis asks us if we what type of mode we want. Did you what did you pick here? What did you
I
pick
picked help from friends because all it meant is that you only had to hit the enemy cannon once instead of multiple times. And I didn't want to have to keep spinning around and hitting the thing a bunch of times.
Right. Yeah, I did this. I did the exact same. I was like, I'm good there. It felt like a reward to myself for not picking the light version of the game in the beginning.
Me too.
I'm like,
I
look,
thought
I'm doing
so.
the
I'm
full
like, that was
version. I
really
can
good.
cut myself a break here with these clunky mid '90s
I didn't
adventure game again.
realize, I didn't clue in that you had to go back and buy the cannon part. So I
Same.
ended up doing all of the battles with my chintzy little tiny little fucking cannon.
Until the last one where you just can't.
Battling. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
until
what
the
I
last
did.
one where you do,
Yeah.
and then I clued, and I'm like, hang on, let me, because I wasn't using a walkthrough, so I talked to the guy again, and he's like, yeah, and then you got to upgrade your cannon, and I'm like, where? And I'm like, how do I upgrade my cannon? I can't even walk anywhere on this boat. Where the hell is the store? It took me a while to
Right.
figure it out.
It's like we talked about in last episode for Monkey Island 2, where and a challenge I faced was Phantom Fellows, where it's like when it's a comedy, it's hard to deliver concise, clear information because you expect the game to be jokey. So when you look at the cannons, you just I forgot the wording, but it was just like I don't know, garbage cannons, like whatever the wording was. It's like these are cheap, terrible cannons.
Weak cannons, yeah.
Yeah, and you just kind of like, yeah, okay, that's it's again, it's not like a home run as far as LOL is concerned, but it's a jokey little way to describe these cannons. At no point was I just like, but wait, what do you mean weak? Like, are they actually underpowered? And if they are, can I perhaps do something about that said underpowered? Instead, it's just like, yeah, they're weak cannons. That's a throwaway Monkey Island in the spirit of a jokey game thing to say. And so yeah,
Like as in the cannon in this game is weak.
yeah, it just feels like
also-
like it belongs in that world. Like, yeah, you're not just gonna say a cannon; it's a comedy. You're gonna, like you got weak cannons, or I don't know. Again, I'm not saying it was a winner. I just thought it was a joke, but it turns out it's not. And you learn that when you get to Rottingham, who, fun fact, was in the design documents was originally named Sir Applegoo.
It's a great name, Paul. Jeez.
I know. I think they should have gone with Sir Applegoo instead of Rottingham, but that's fine. Can't undo the
Isn't
past.
he was the guy that was in the barber's chair, wasn't he?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's nice character flow, I would say. Not even just the you trying to selfishly obtain the chair he's sitting in creates a bit of a villain in itself. It puts a chip on his shoulder about losing his hair and makes it a little personal in the future. I'm not sure how much that really matters. He might have just wanted to steal the absolutely disgusting map. Anyway, that was really gross, man. I'm a gross person, and that was gross.
That was gross.
Peeling the map off his back.
I kept thinking, yeah, because the guy's suntanning on the beach, right? And you literally have to burn his back while he's sleeping and remove the skin containing the map.
Yeah. And the sound effects, everything about that was hard to take. It was gross. You put the oil on it, and it cooks him a little, and you peel it off, and then the art for the map, once you give it to Rottingham, is just like this fleshy pink glob. It's so...
And it was dripping.
Gross.
It was like
Yeah.
moist. So bad. Yeah, that puzzle was kind of a little bit wild. Jacob helped me with that one too. He's just like, he's really good at he'll pull stuff out and just click everything on everything. He's like, no, but it's not because he's trying to go through all the things. He wants to hear what it says every time you click something on something because he wants to find the funny thing. And that was the key. That was the whole reason I got into Quest for Glory and all that other stuff was I wanted to find the funny.
Right, that's the spirit of adventure games, is exploring, to just hear the little hidden things and I forgot how, but interacting with Wally in the beginning, like if it's an unnecessary interaction that leads him to say that Guybrush sees the monocle under his eye patch. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, because in my head, I'm getting cynical right away. I'm like, well, where's his iPad? Where's his monocle that was so crucial in the last game? And now he just doesn't need it. And then it turns out the monocle is under the eye patch. And it's a cute reason why he's like, it protects the empty eye socket or whatever. But yeah, point being is that you find these cool little, just little things in there by doing exactly what Jacob did. And I'm happy to hear it did that for Jacob, because I had a similar experience to him, where it just really resurrected the spirit of these games for me. And credit where credit's due too is that there's a lot more hotspots in this game than the first two, especially than the first one, which has none. But I think I think there's a lot more even than the second one. And
Oh my God, the puzzle when you get trapped in the snake. Speaking of hotspots,
right,
I
that
love
was
that
super
puzzle.
fun.
You're trying, you can't grab anything because you're stuck in this snake. So there's all these useful inventory items around you, but you can't pick them up. You have to realize that they're inside the snake, so you can't see them.
Yes. I'm so glad you brought that up. That's exactly what I say, like the greatest puzzles ever in this game. Like the spirit of the pocket, the exact little harmony that I think any dev aspires to hit with adventure games is like that right there, where it's like it just feels so good to accomplish it. And it's not hard, but it's not easy. And maybe once you figure it out, it feels like but like it's just in that right pocket of like you can do it. And the subversion was brilliant, where they make you think it's going to be all these tempting objects all around you that you just can't reach, and you're like, well, maybe how can I figure out how to reach those? And then you eventually click inside the snake, and you're like, oh my God, so good.
Yeah, it was really satisfying. The whole second day was really satisfying. The bar where the fortune teller is to read you the tarot, and the bartender, was that room not magnificence in design?
It was, yes.
Because the room is like, it's a corner, one side up the bar, and then the front side of the bar, a door and a door and a door. And it's all like, essentially, it's not a 3D room really, but they somehow make the whole background stick out 3D.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, it's really, really good. The neon sign in the background is really good. Again, the little animations are on point with the card reader in her cards is really good. The character who plays Good Soup is, fun fact, he's Kay Cooter, who plays Werner Huber in Gabriel Knight 2.
Oh, wow, that's a good one.
So and refresher, so Werner Huber is the old guy in the tavern who talks to Grace a lot in Gabriel Knight 2. And he's the voice of Good Soup. He's also a voice of somebody in Grim Fandango who it's Doc something, but I never played Grim Fandango, so I don't know. I'm guessing there's only one Doc, so it's him. So that's really good. Okay, so.
Oh, this game does the other thing. Like remember when all the pirates mutinied and Guybrush pulls a Zach Morris and he looks right at the camera and he's like, and this is how you get into college kids.
Right.
Those little moments, like that's totally what he does. Or like Malcolm in the Middle, right? He'd sometimes turn around and look at the camera and say, well, this is blah, 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 blah. And it kind of, I haven't seen it done so well in a game before with the way that he does that.
Yeah, they handled the fourth wall perfectly in this game, because you couldn't not do fourth wall, because it defines so much of the first two games, but it's really light-handed, and I think it was really well done. Especially the big fourth wall moment with the cemetery. But before we do that, I have some lingering notes that exist before part 4, and then let's do part 4. Because part 4 is like the meat of the game, I think.
There's so much going on in part 4.
There's a lot. The first 3 parts are pretty casual, let's say. Okay, so lingering notes for the first 3 parts. While I'm saying words, and if you have any you want to get out too, we'll do that. I just have some small ones, like the maggots eating the chicken in front of Manny is awesome. It's such a cute Saturday morning cartoon animation where the maggots just devour this chicken in a swoop. Obviously, the Ask Me About Grim Fandango callback is really classy, man. That was a great way to do that. In the spirit of, obviously, of Ask Me About Loom, Guybrush's rejection to picking up the pin is awesome, because he's like, no, I don't want people to ask me about Grim Fandango all day. Like, I don't. that was such a great response. And seeing Manny was really cool. I had a similar experience too. I imagine what players at the time had, because this game came out a year before Grim. So they wouldn't have known Manny yet when they saw that. And I haven't played Grim yet, so I don't know Manny. So just seeing it was like, oh, cool. Like I'm gonna get to know him one day. Like and I'll think back to this time when I first saw him and pulled a knife out of his back.
Yeah, you'll love it. Play the original version because it's all tank controls, and instead to know what to interact with, Manny just looks at it like with his head turned.
Interesting.
Totally different, actually.
Does he do that in the remastered too?
No, they changed it, the controls, and I think they ended up with a verb coin or something in the remaster.
Okay. Right, we got Banjo Puzzle. Oh, Guybrush, I think this is in the third act. Let me take a quick look. It doesn't matter. It might not be, but I think it's definitely not. Okay, I'll save it. Using the scissors with the undergrowth is lame, I said, according to me, past me.
Because he could have just like brushed it aside.
Because you use the scissors there twice. It's that Al Low bullshit that I don't like. I don't like when you have to use an inventory item twice. And you have to do that later in the game too. I think I wrote it down because it does piss me off enough to write down every time. Sorry if anybody heard that ding. But I like you cut the ipecac flower off the bush and then you use the scissors on the bush again to clear it out of the way. And it's like, that took me forever because I don't think to use the thing twice. Like you use it and you get a flower, done.
I was the same. That was one of the ones where I was stuck wandering around for long enough, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to record. I'm just going to look up this little nugget. And then my kid's looking at me, judging me heavily. Oh, yeah, can't figure it out. Straight for a walkthrough. Huh. Some adventure game player you are.
Right. Yeah, you're feeling docking points off your card. Yeah.
Normally he doesn't pay attention or notice because he doesn't care, which is, again, a real testament to this game that he cared enough to make fun of me.
Yeah. Yeah, there is something to be said about the cartoonish delivery of the game too. It definitely grabbed Strummer's attention too, which pains me to say in a sense because I gave 1 so much credit for not having, and 2 not having these like elaborate cutscenes and fluid animations and stuff like that. But it definitely helps with the kids, gets the kids involved.
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a good day. The bartender, right? Getting the bartender his drink, the tarot card reader that just keeps telling you you're going to die. I love how you push things. Like, you don't bug them once, you bug them 6 times or 5 times because you need all 5 tarot cards, you know?
Right. Okay, so we're into Act 4. Let's do this officially.
Oh, is that Act 4? Was that, okay, what's Act 3?
It is. Yeah, sorry. It's holding us back anyway. So we're into Act 4. We crash onto the shore. The pirates claim mutiny, that they're all done with us. One thing that I think wasn't the greatest design was that the odds that you leave that scene before finding the lotion are probably pretty low. So you find the lotion and you ask for it and you get sent on a fetch quest to get this dude's lotion. And I was a little frustrated at the time because I didn't know why I needed this lotion. I'm like, this is a weird, I get it, it's a LucasArtsy inventory item, but like, why am I going to have to go on, like, it sounded daunting of a task. I'm like, oh my God, I have to do a lot to get this lotion right now. Why do I want the lotion? Because I didn't wander off into the clearance to find Elaine yet. And if I had done that first, then I would have discovered I need the lotion for the ring. But anyway, I just thought that was like my only design flaw critique for the game was that the way that's presented, like you're probably going to talk to Haggis and find out they're doing mutiny and then you'll see the lotion next to him and whatever. So anyway, it's just a small complaint.
Took me forever to figure out to steal the bar cushion.
Me too. That's one of my bullshit
God.
complaints too. Yeah.
That and the mirror. I didn't think to take the mirror either.
Actually, my note is taking a cushion from a bar stool is peak adventure game.
It really is. I mean, you can tell because that bar stool is a little ripped and a little bit like you can see in hindsight all the clues that they're planting. It's just hard to see them as clues sometimes in the middle of it.
Yeah, like I knew I needed a cushion for the egg, but I didn't. You don't think you can take a cushion off a bar stool? That one was just. I think that one could have been. It annoyed me because I feel like it could have been done better. Like there's probably other cushions they could have put in this world more naturally, even like in the bedrooms upstairs in the hotel. Like just didn't seem like exactly. It didn't seem like a fair source of a cushion. And real quick too,
and using cheese as tar is a little bit of a stretch too.
Oh, I have a good note about that. Yes, exactly right. This was still Act 3. Sorry, Pete. We're tough. We're not good at chronological. But one of the funniest laugh out louds in the game for me was the ship in the storm. And the one pirate's like, "Help! You gotta help me out, Haggis." And he's like, "I'm giving it all I got." And then they pan down, and it's his kilt that he's trying to hold down. That was really good, really good little cutscene. Okay, to your cheese thing.
Yes.
So, right. Okay. Sorry, my own note was confusing. Shocker. But I put taking a barstool cushion is peak adventure game, and then I wrote, never mind. Erupting a volcano to heat a cooking pot is peak adventure game. And then there's an asterisk mark that says to heat a pot to put cheese in it to use the cheese as tar to trade for lotion.
Right. Is peak.
It's peak adventure game.
Peak adventure game.
Like you make
Like
a volcano erupt to heat the pot. To put cheese in it, to use it as tar, to trade the tar for lotion.
That one was a little bit of a stretch.
Unbelievable. Yeah, that was fun.
I love the family names. So all of the names of the bartender's family on this level are based on soup. So you have like Minerva Stronheim, good soup baroness of borscht, or like Baron C. Lambert, chowder soup pioneer of crouton technology.
Yeah.
It just makes me laugh. It makes you want to click on everything and see what everything is. And then you don't even realize how much you're going to mess with all of that system later on, because you start taking out pictures and putting up pictures and, another common Monkey Island theme like you do with the wanted poster in the second game. So it's kind of already something you're used to doing.
Right. Yeah, I like that at one point you get to pick your soup name, let's say, for yeah, you're given a bunch of choices. I don't remember which one I picked, but I do know that I didn't pick wonton. And then later in the game, way later in the game, you can it's on Blood Island in the cave, I believe. You introduce yourself to the villain, the dude with the keepers of the giant diamond in Blood Island. And they're like, "What's your name?" And you can say anything you want, Guybrush, whatever, but you can say wonton, good soup. And I just thought that was funny. It was kind of cute because I'm like, oh, that was the developer's favorite one. Like I didn't pick wonton, and that's still the one. Like, so they didn't do a little variable to track what I picked. They're like, no, we're going with wonton because that's the funniest for us.
That's the one that we like.
Yeah, exactly. That was cute.
It's good though, because the whole point, and I love how it all comes around, because on this level you're told you're going to die, and she's essentially saying you're going to die multiple times because you keep getting the death card, and it's actually what you need to do to be able to complete the level, which is amazing.
Right. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Good call.
Yeah, it's all connected up. And you do die. And when you die, the Technicolor scene that ensues, because you essentially poison yourself, is some of the coolest Technicolor scenery I've ever seen in a game. Like, on 10,000 lumens, awesome.
Yeah, I was taking mental notes on that too, from a little dev perspective. I'm like, interesting. Like, because it was really quite simple what they did. It was just like it doesn't matter. It was a really simple but effective moment where I'm like, interesting. Okay.
And the way his voice changed as he was starting to get like dead and in high in it, like the way that they did that was masterful too. The whole process was it's like watching a show.
Yeah, exactly right. Right. They had these really interesting little, not interesting, but really effective little cutscene moments, and the death thing was a little weird. Okay, real quick, I'm looking at my notes here. Madame Zima, that's her name. A good LOL moment was when she was like, "I sense a dark presence," and then you sneak up behind her, and she's just like, "Ah!" And I don't know why, but that kind of bit will get me every time. It's like frightening an elder person. It's hilarious. It always will be.
So much fun.
What did you think about the first time you die from mixing the alcohol with the medicine? That was one I was stuck for a long time with that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was stuck on how to do it. I mean, and then I was stuck on why you did it. And then once you do it, well, I did, for one, I'm just going to mention it's funny because he's like, "Oh, sorry, the game's over. You scored 0 out of 800 points." And they start rolling the credits. Guybrush starts yelling as if he's Stan in a coffin was my notes. And then after the credits rolled and it went through, I realized it was Stan in the coffin with, again, the best suit design I've ever seen in a video game, because the suit was static. But Stan
was. I'm glad you noticed that. Okay.
I loved it so much.
I made a note of that. I'm like, it's so weird. It was. I noticed it in the other two games as well, but I chalked that up to just low resolution, and what a pain in the ass it would have been to have animated it otherwise. But yeah, this is very purposeful this time. Okay, so this moment in the game is brilliant. It's I'd mentioned earlier that their fourth wall breaking was handled really well, and this was kind of most of their fourth wall breaking is in this one moment where the game literally kind of ends and they roll the credits. And they even mentioned, like, I thought you couldn't die in a LucasArts game. Like, oh, maybe they're trying something different. Which he should have actually called back to Fate of Atlantis instead, but that's fine.
Oh, did you notice the music in the Good Soup family crib or family crypt had a Phantom Fellows vibe going to it?
Oh my
As
God,
soon as
dude.
it started playing, I'm just like, am I in? Like, I can so, and I know you've never played the game before, but I'm like, this is so Phantom Fellows.
That is so interesting that you say that. Weird. Okay, because I wrote down that the theme in the crypt is awesome, is my note. I thought it was more eloquent. But I remember as I wrote it, I'm like, that's a weird thing to write because it's barely a theme. It's barely a song. It's borderline sound effects. And I'm not mentioning any other theme in my notes at all.
No,
And I just kind of
that's
called
a
myself
Phantom
out for it. I'm like, why is this
big
like
time.
speaking to me so much? That's so weird.
Now you got to go back and listen to it just like
Yeah,
for a minute again.
exactly. That's so weird. Oh, that's very cool. What a cool little besties moment too that you noticed that as a
Totally.
yeah, that's cute. We're adorable right now. In this moment. Okay, so Madame Zima, the death thing, we get the cards, we go upstairs. The Stan moment, right. So Stan, okay, two things about that was awesome. Was that the subversion there was subtly, it was just another, I'm not even sure it's a puzzle, but it gave me a small dopamine hit and a little bit of a win. Where you're in the coffin, in the crypt, and you're clicking, you're trying to figure out what the hell to do, and you just keep clicking on your coffin until you realize, oh, that's not my coffin. I'm in this coffin over here.
Me too. Yep.
That was so good. It was just, it was so brilliant. Like, you can't be mad at it. You kind of, I think that's what I like in a good puzzle is when it's not too hard, it's not obvious, and you kind of get mad at yourself once you solve it. Where it's just like, like, yeah, that was, I don't know. That was so well done. And then it's not done paying off yet because then you find out that that's the coffin from the second game and Stan is still in there.
Satisfying moment in the game because
so
like I said,
good.
my head was dinging that there was something here and I was like just thinking about Stan, and then there he was, and as soon as he popped out, like I could feel like a flush of like dopamine or whatever, like oh, this is so good.
Yeah, exactly. And you leave and you come back and he's already set up shop, which I thought was awesome.
You get to buy insurance from him, which is it was a great little storyline there.
It's so good. I love when you just leave and you come back and immediately there's like the flashing light Stan sign and he's like made a little business.
Like 2 seconds later too.
Yeah, that was so good. Okay, so
But yeah, then it gets funny because okay, in the bartender's room, there's also like there's this room upstairs and there's this dead guy and he's on a Murphy bed and you have to pull it down, and it's such a funny puzzle because if you pull the bed down but you don't secure it, you can't complete the puzzle at this point. So you have to find a way to secure it, and no better way to do that than with the nails from the coffin that you were sealed in. Which is hilarious to me because later on the puzzle rounds itself out by the fact that you need to unnail the bed.
right. So yeah,
So
just slingshot him out. It was good, and it tried to get me with the you need one more nail thing, but luckily I already had that nail. But I was
Yeah,
like,
me
you
too. I'm like,
bastards.
yes,
What are you doing
I've
here with
got
that?
it.
Yeah, you knock it off with that nonsense. You're lucky I had this nail, but that whole I probably need one more. Like, shut up. You don't know how many nails it takes to hold a Murphy bed down.
But yeah, essentially the puzzle is you've got to convince this guy so you can get an insurance policy that you are a member of his family, which is a very funny puzzle.
It is. I was along for the ride on that one. I didn't really know what was going on until I did. By the way,
Right,
I
was
didn't
just
know it was
like,
called a
why am
Murphy
I
bed.
doing this?
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly. I
it
didn't.
is.
Yeah, I felt inauthentic for using it by name a second ago. I just learned it, doing that childlike thing. I learned it from you. He says, obviously. Yeah, I didn't. I was just going along for the ride, like just kind of setting off things, nailing the bed down because it wouldn't stay up, and then taking the book or using the hammer on the boards because there were boards, and you take boards off of things. You even do it in Phantom Fellows. You see loose boards, you take them off.
Yeah, it was all pretty, most of it was straightforward. Like I said, the hardest part for me was realizing to take the mirror from behind the bar to get the whole process rolling. And did you do it out of order? Is that why you, or what was the reason you didn't know what you were trying to accomplish?
Um, I think because the last thing I discovered was the death certificate, and it wasn't. I guess it wasn't until then where I was like, I guess I didn't realize it was my death certificate. That's what it is.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm like, a death certificate. I guess I'll give it to Stan because of the insurance. And then that conversation, that dialogue, taught me that I was cashing in on myself.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see that.
Right. So I was just kind of going along with it all, like not really sure what all was going on, and yeah. I didn't really get stuck at any point in this part of the game, not all of part 4, but just in this little hotel part, except for the damn drink thing, like we kind of already touched on, because I didn't. It confused me because you make that concoction for good soup and he drinks it. It's never used on another drink. So that's what really got me. I'm like, why would I use this concoction on another drink and then drink that? And then the
Yeah.
reason is, oh, to kill yourself. Like, none of that is something I would be trying to do. So anyway, we
But
all
once you
got there
get
in the
the
end.
insurance from Stan and you end up in the crypt of the family, did you look in the hole in the crypt?
Which are we in the good
The,
soup crypt now?
yeah, the good soup crypt.
Okay. Um, no, I looked in the hole to use Murray, like that hole. Where
Nope, the hole in the crypt right next to the girl ghost who wants to get married.
I didn't.
Oh, if you look in that hole, it takes you back to the previous Monkey Island game. And you
Oh,
end
no
up in
way.
like a tunnel, like you poke your head out of the tunnel in the deep dark forest, and you're like, you have 378 pieces of 8 fish, a hunk of meat. I have all the notes on it. And he's like, what is it? I don't know. What's going on? And then you're just like, oh my God, I'm in the wrong place. There's a horde of rabid jaguars or something like that. And he's like, oh my God, they're going to attack me. And then he pops back into the regular Monkey Island game that he's in.
Ah, that's brilliant. I gotta see that for myself.
You got to, yeah, I did. It was random. I didn't even know it was going to be there. I just like, oh, what's this? Oh,
I was childishly afraid of the ghost.
she's
I,
scary
I
though, a
didn't want to
little bit.
mess with it. Like, I know that you can't die in a LucasArts game, but I
No, I
guess
had the same feelings.
okay, thank you. Maybe I've just played too many Sierra games. I don't know, but I was just like, I don't want to mess with that ghost till I know what I'm doing with her.
And it turns out she's like, are you? I love that about this game that it doesn't listen. She's like, unless, are you single? And then all the answers are like, no, no way in hell, blah, blah, blah. And the last game is, oh yeah, I'm available. So you click on that one. And then all he says is no.
Right? Yeah, yeah, that's very good. Yeah, those are always fun, and that's one of my favorite adventure game tropes. Let's say, where the you don't get to say the thing you think you're saying.
But yeah, all she's trying to do is she's trying to lay to rest. She wants to fall in love, and she wants to fall in love with the rich pirate captain. And then if you make the connection, you're like, well, have I seen any other dead pirates that maybe she could be with that aren't LeChuck? And that's where you have to make the connection that it's the skeleton in the nailed down Murphy bed. And you have to
Yes.
somehow get the two of them together. Well, how can you possibly do that? And that one took me a long time to crack.
Right. I lucked into that one, but
Did you?
I could yeah yeah, just because using the boards on the wall, taking the boards off the wall, creating the hole, and then knowing that the bed was spring loaded. I didn't know where I was launching him, but I knew I was gonna launch him. If that makes sense, yeah. And then he lands in the crypt,
And then ends up going off and marrying her, and you get her little like ring band thing. Because what you're, I mean, we didn't really mention it, but the whole point of this game is you gave Elaine a cursed ring, and the only way to break the curse is to get rid of the cursed ring, and of course you want to give her a real ring so that she'll marry you.
yes, you need to unbreak the curse. Wow, yeah. We're like 85 minutes into the episode. By the way, here's the point
This is
of
what it's
here's
about.
right. You gotta. Does it matter now? I don't know, but well, yeah. To break the curse that you put on Elaine, you have to get a diamond of equal or greater value to the one in which you cursed her with, and so that's why we go essentially through this whole journey of trying to find this gigantic diamond that's ultimately in Blood Island, which we're about to get to in our little walkthrough. Jeez Louise, spit it out, man.
Before we do, though,
Okay.
I want to mention that another one of my favorite little moments in the game is when you take the mirror behind the barkeep, and he's just like, "What's this? Oh, is he noticing me?" And then nope, he doesn't, and then the game goes on, but like nothing is said. It doesn't say that. You can see it from their facial expressions and the movements. He's like, should I take the mirror? He's not looking. Yoink, took the mirror. Nah. Okay, carry on. Like, it's just so much was said in that 3 seconds, in that subtle little movement of taking the mirror. I loved it so much.
Yes. Yeah. I remember that too. I did notice that. I'm a big fan of moving characters to convey thing, like just moving them left or right, like the little bits of movement, the most minimal necessary to get across an entire silent dialogue is brilliant. It's always fun.
Yeah, I really like that. And then, okay, so after that, you're in this little section. I guess we go next to like the cliff lift operator and stuff, right?
Yeah, before that I'll say that some of the dialogue mentions the years in which things took place, and I didn't track it very well. I remember writing this down and like hastily. I'm like, I should do that dialogue again to really nerd it out for the listeners, but I didn't. I kept playing the game. You'll forgive me, but in the dialogue they mentioned that they're kind of alluding to the fact that the first Monkey Island game takes place in more or less 1631. And
interesting.
Yeah,
okay, I missed that. I like that.
I have nothing else to really add to that. I just thought it was cool to have any sort of time and date for because I always wonder that kind of stuff, especially with pirates. Like when was that? So yeah, 1631 is really roughly, because it might have been. I'm not. You know what? Let's just leave it there. I could just circle the fun out of that, but we'll leave it there. And then I'll just say that before we head off to book. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, we're not going to go yet.
Okay.
You can say your thing because I have things to say too.
Good. Okay, you go.
Oh, okay. Charles de Goulash parachuting into Mary Minnie was amazing, that whole scene. And then as the two of them were kissing, there's these little like background angels, and she gave this like surprised face, one of the angels, just in a quick little background shot.
Right.
Cut back to regular, like their faces are all normal again.
Yeah. That was really good, really subtle.
And and it's funny, there's like this cliff lift operator, and you literally throw him off the cliff in cold-blooded murder, essentially.
Yes.
Although it's happened to you a bunch of times, like you just take this dude and he's gone.
It was. My note.
I was sad. I was like, oh no, poor guy.
Yeah. My note here is Guybrush killed a man. That is murder. It was vengeful, just out of revenge, because the guy doesn't kill you. I mean, he's doing his best. And there's, if anything, Guybrush isn't reading the room. Like, this guy's not competent for the job. But I mean, he's trying until he loses his grip, and then you just go kill him. You don't know how to cherry, whatever that sweet coat sugar something, make it sound nice. You kill a guy. Firefly puzzle was fun. I like that. Love fireflies. Love a good firefly based puzzle. Anything glowy like that. Just so satisfying. Glowy jar.
I love glowy stuff. Oh, and they said somewhere in there, they made a comment when they were having a conversation that a sequel can never be as good as an original, which I also thought was a funny moment.
Right. Yeah. What's funny, it just has me thinking how often the second one is the weakest of the three. Like in trilogies, it's usually the first and third, or which I can't apply to this series, and it's so everybody feels different ways anyway about it. But yeah, whatever. Okay, walk speed sucks. That's a note.
You go ahead. I can see. Look at this. Is how excited we are about this game. This is ridiculous. I can feel it though. There's this energy about it.
The walk speed sucks. That was annoying as hell. I forgot.
But you can double click to everything.
Oh man, I was not clicking enough.
If you see, the arrow that makes it so you can go to the next anything, if you double click whenever you see that arrow, you instantly transport there.
Gotcha. Wow.
Jacob told me that. I didn't notice, and he's like, Mom, why are you walking? Just double click. And I'm like, oh.
Dang. Yeah. I could have shaved 40 minutes off the gameplay with that one. But
This is what we get for not talking about, because we're like, we're not going to talk about it because we'll talk about it on the podcast. This is what happens, folks.
yeah, new rule. Anything that'll save a ton of time. any little anything our kids teach us, we should share with each other because we're too in our 40s to know.
So I love the flashback. We go into the next kind of chapter, I guess, essentially, right? Do you want to say something else first before we go?
What is the next chapter? Blood Island or before Blood Island? I have Blood Island.
The next
things to
chapter
say.
is like Blood Island, where all the Lemonhead and all your fruity friends are.
Okay.
And then they're like, they do this flashback to the guy that owned the wiener roasting hut, and he was having a conversation with LeChuck, and they rehashed that animation and re-showed that scene. It was one of my favorite scenes from the second game too.
Right. The weenie stand guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to get back. I think this is all still Act 4.
Yeah, this is all. Act 4 was really, really long.
Yeah.
There was a whole island. You have to cut a tofu into a headpiece.
Right.
So you can
right.
go
Because Lemonhead is
participate.
to get the volcano to explode. Right.
That was the whole thing. Okay, but after you leave here and you go to this other little island and you do all your other stuff, you end up in this big, long conversation with LeChuck.
Okay, so before that, let's say, I want to touch on the mysterious guy in the boat that takes you to Blood Island.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, because that was maybe my favorite bit in the whole game. I really two or three, actually a couple notes on this. One, the puzzle here is that you have to make a compass to give the mysterious guy in the boat, and my note here is that this puzzle was almost awesome. Like I really like the spirit behind the puzzle of like getting the seawater in the cup and putting the pin through the cork. Like everything is perfect except for magnetizing the pin is bullshit. I didn't like that because that's not how that works as far as I know. You can't just touch metal to a magnet and now that metal is magnetized. So,
It does actually work.
does it really?
It really does. When I was a kid, I was a big magnet kid, and my dad would teach me how to charge things. So you'd take a strong magnet and you'd put it on a pin and you'd charge the pin with the magnetic force.
No
and
way.
then you'd use that pin without the magnet to pick up other pins.
Oh, I can remember doing something like that as a kid. Right.
Yeah, for real, for real. So if it's sitting on water, I mean, it's a little bit of a stretch, but it would,
It would work at least for a second, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's fair. Because that's an adventure game stretch. I'm down for that type of stretch. Right. Okay. I'm glad you said that. I was, the audience who knows that out there would have been really frustrated if both of us condemned that puzzle based on it being factually correct. And Guybrush does say, to be fair, he does tell the guy, and then again, just an awesome bit where the dude heads off. It's something I did in Phantom Fellows with Lars and Chad, where the dude heads off and the camera cuts away, and then he comes right back, and the camera cuts right back, and he's like, "Wait a second, how do I get out of here?" Yeah, that was so funny. But then after he leaves that time, then Guybrush is like, something, wait, don't go, or I should have told him that the magnet charge is temporary.
Mm-hmm.
I should have known right then and there that it was realistic. Okay, so that's a really fun puzzle now that it stands up to logic. And that guy's bit was awesome. Just a mysterious guy in general where like he would say everything in an ominous tone and then sum it up in a quick jokey, I can't be bothered with this sort of tone. It was just really fun. It made me like exhaust his dialogue options because he was awesome. And then the only other thing I have to say to that is, unless you have anything you want to add with Blood Island, which is where we get thrown off the cliff, I did not use the umbrella the first time correctly.
Neither.
Okay, nice.
Neither.
Because I forgot that you could use I clicked the umbrella on myself the first time.
Me too.
Right,
Me too.
okay,
And I'm
nice.
like, no, oh my God, there he goes.
That's
And
how
then,
Sierra
but-
would have done it.
That's totally. But then you end up in like this hold and you have to like make a deal with these other pirates and they're like, you have to play poker. And it's a great puzzle too because you take these death tarot cards you got from the tarot lady and you use them to cheat the poker game, which I love.
Yes, exactly. That was a great puzzle too. Yeah, nice, easy solution. And the way the lights go off and everything that transpires after that is very fun and reminiscent of the first game, behind the walls fighting in a sense. Not in like a rip-off sense, but just the vibes. And then you get back to the beach, you've got the island that you need, and an Easter egg here is that if you click on the ocean 4 times, you will get a flashback to Monkey Island 1, and Guybrush sees a dead, drowned Guybrush and makes a joke saying that he can't hold his breath for very long.
That's beautiful.
It was really good. And the Guybrush is all pixelated too, I believe. The dead Guybrush.
Yeah, I like that. See, this has a couple of cool callbacks. So we've got everything we need. We just need to go back to Elaine and put the proper ring on her to turn her back into a human, which should technically be happily ever after, and the game is over.
Right. But that's not how it goes.
And it turns out, you end up getting the ring on her, and then she's off and kidnapped again. Now, who in the world would want to kidnap Elaine? Do you think there could possibly be another love interest in this series?
Right. Well, she punches you in the face, which is fun.
Because, she comes right out of it, and it was just sort of her first automatic reaction. It was beautiful.
Yeah, you see, yeah. And then Guybrush is like on the ground after getting socked, and he's just like, "Are you okay?" Which I thought was adorable.
He reminded me of you in some of those lines, or Oliver even from the Phantom Fellows. Like, he had this real, like, easygoing, like, I don't know, the humor. It was really, there was a lot of, like, the heart of your game in this. And as I said, it makes me laugh because you hadn't played it before.
Yeah, no, it's true. I did catch quite a bit of that. There's that childlike wonder that Guybrush had was different than the first two games, and much more Oliver-y, and there was things I did in Phantom Fellows that I didn't know this game did, obviously, that I had, like the there's at least one time in Phantom Fellows where you can say that you're gonna like lie to Penny, and it's the game doesn't let you actually lie, like that false where the dialogue options, like he won't say the horrible things the game's trying to get you to say. And yeah, you're right, there was a few parallels there. But okay, right, so the Chuck, the second you get her free, the Chuck comes and takes you. It's not as frustrating as it might sound because you're waiting for it at this point. The Chuck's been brewing, and they do the whole meanwhile thing with the Chuck, and so he gets you, and now you wake up in part 5, trapped inside the Carnival of the Damned, which is an awesome name.
In a dynamite rigged, big whoop branded sort of a fair ride, and it's great because the conversation you have with LeChuck is amazing. This is definitely one of my favorite parts of the game, and I love it when the conversation shifts to what is the secret of Monkey Island, because it lets you guess, and your guesses are that Rosebud is a sled, that the guy's girlfriend is really a man, that they have to shoot the dog at the end, or that it's made from people.
It's made from people.
It's just, what a funny conversation to have. And I mean, you're really gently fourth wall breaking throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, I think they did a really good job here with okay, so this is interesting. What did you feel? How did you feel of the way in which this game reconciles the end of 2, where they take a definitive stance? There's no vagueness. The game is like LeChuck's voodoo magic, whatever, has created this other realm, definitively. So they pick up from the cutscene at the end of 2, where it implies that maybe it was LeChuck's voodoo and things like that, and this game's like, yes, it was. The theme park, Chucky and Guybrush as kids is not the reality. That was like a trapped in a voodoo purgatory thing. So anyway, they own that, and so the Carnival of the Damned essentially is like a realm that LeChuck has created. Or so I interpret it. I don't know, maybe not necessarily that he created it, but it is like a purgatory, a home of the damned, let's say. And LeChuck says...
I thought that maybe it referenced the fact that the theme park you got sent to at the end of the second one was this, essentially, in some way, even if it wasn't in the same place. I don't know. That's how my brain connected it.
No, same. Yeah, we're more or less on the same page there. I guess what I mean is that the theme park at the end of 2 isn't, let's say, base reality. Right. Like Guybrush wasn't a kid, and those weren't his parents that he was going home with. It was a realm that LeChuck created or sent him to anyway. Right.
Yeah, I could see that. And then what else did they say about that one little part? Oh, right. Yeah, he's like, no one's going to remember who you are. right? Or no one would even know who I am. And then he's like, do you even know who Bobbin Threadbare is? And you're like,
Yeah.
no. And then he's like, exactly.
Dude, I wrote that note too, and I wrote "damn" next to it. Like, oh man, that was harsh. They did Bobbin dirty there. That was
He sure did.
Man, that was brutal. That was tough to watch. Yeah, that
it
was so
good
good.
though.
Hmm.
Oh, poor Murray, poor Wally, poor everybody in this game, really. Wally the most, though.
Yeah, well, you know.
I mean, he never gets good, even at the very, very end of the game.
Okay, so they turn now. You get turned into a kid, and Child LeChuck's walk, or sorry, Child,
Which is another bit of proof right there, isn't it, Paul? That you were turned into a kid at the end of Monkey Island 2 because of his demonic fare, because it's a thing he does.
Right. Thank you. Right. That's what I was sloppily trying to stumble towards saying, which was that it was all part of this voodoo-y, magic-y control or alternate dimension, whatever it was. It wasn't that he was a kid pretending in a theme park the whole time. So they completely lean into this notion that these realms are being created or they're being kept in there. Right. So he turns into a kid. His animation is hilarious. His walk animation is really, really funny.
And
It's so
got this
cute.
Big grin on his face too,
Right,
like a
right.
childlike wonder grin.
Yeah, like he can't wipe it off if he tried, sort of grin. The guy offers you gross snow cones, so you take a plain one. That was clever. The anchor and the pie was clever, even if you don't. I didn't know why I was getting the anchor, but
Neither. I'm like, but I want to pick up Murray because
Right.
one of the prizes is Murray the Skull.
but then once you don't pick him, Murray's hilarious. Like unbelievable. You're picking the
yells at
anchor.
you.
The anchor.
And that's the eye muse again too, doing great because Murray's sitting there yelling at you and you have to interact with the other characters at the fair and you still can.
Right, as you walk left, he pans to the right speaker, and yeah, it's really, really good. And he's still just in the background, telling you off. Yeah, that was really good. It took me a
that
long
whole
time to
puzzle.
look out the porthole. Did you struggle with that by chance?
Yeah, I didn't have a clue to look out the portal.
Yeah.
I didn't, but Jacob, he came in the room and he's like, open the gate, Mom, go in there. And I'm like, okay, geez.
Yeah, I didn't even see the gate. It said the whole LucasArts foreground thing. I don't even pay attention to the stuff closest to us. The same
me
with the
neither.
coffin, where I thought we were in the wrong coffin. The same reasons. It's like blurry in the foreground.
No, Jacob, he gets it, man. He puts this stuff together and it makes me feel like I'm not even a real adventure gamer.
Yeah.
But then I remember how smart I was when I was a teenager, and I'm like, oh yeah, my brain used to do stuff like that too, okay?
Yeah, smart stuff.
It did real smart
It
stuff.
used to think about things.
Way back in the day. But yeah, no, there's essentially like you can see there's animosity because there's these two dressed up. There's a guy in a stinky rat costume, and then there's the guy in the dog costume. Everybody loves the guy in the dog costume. So you can essentially see that you need to get the two of them or find a way to, piss them off or at least one of them off. And that's kind of your tip to, as we mentioned earlier, put your hand icon on the dog and just start pushing him, which I love so much.
Yeah, this part of the game was really hard considering you only have to do two things. Well, I guess three or four things, but the shoving the dog took me a long time. Even though the game taught me earlier I could do that, it's just not that common in adventure games. I hadn't done it that much to be like, that's a go-to thing you do. You just shove. I love it, don't get me wrong. Like
That's why Jacob said it right away, because that's why he's not used to adventure games. That's why he knew to shove them right away.
Right. We get these preconceived things in our head, like you can't do that, or adventure games don't do that, and then that gets in our way. What adventure games do is make you make some bullshit concoction with a snow cone that I didn't. That took me forever too. I'm like, I didn't
And
think.
plus, it melts really fast. You have to,
Yeah.
if you don't do the concoction right away, the snow cone melts.
Right. You can't walk.
No,
I think it's like once
No
you walk.
walking.
Yeah. But I didn't like
it
that.
immediately melts too. Like it took me a while to figure out that it was that fast.
Yeah. That one was annoying because I don't know. I just didn't think like make that same thing you made that one time but alas, we both got there. And then it's off to one of the best parts of the game is on the ride at the very, very end. Part 6, you're going through I like this too because there's something, I dare say, poetic about bringing the series full circle where it ends on a very Disney-like Pirates of the Caribbean kind of ride, which is more or less what inspired Ron Gilbert to start this series. And here you are on it, and it's got the the wood cutouts, and it has the familiar characters of the past in animatronic form, which Drummer really liked because of Freddy.
Except for Wally.
Right. Exactly, except for Wally. And so this was really fun. It does bring back a little bit of the annoyance of the end of the second game where you're on a bit of a timer with LeChuck. But it's not nowhere near as finicky or just frustrating as it was in the second game.
Just a bit of waiting while you had to wait for, like, a trolley car picks you up and then drops you off in different places if you want to get off. And each one of them is like a museum exhibit showing scenes from the games previous, all set up and staged. So you have to figure out what to do in each exhibit so that you can hopefully eventually destroy LeChuck, which, I mean, you do. It culminates in a big explosion, which to me is a little questionable, but then if you stay till the end of the credits, you'll find out a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. So you blow up LeChuck, and Guybrush is seen sailing off into the sunset with Elaine with the just married thing. So she does say yes. And contrary to Ron Gilbert, I did like that because I'm softy when it comes to that stuff. Like I thought that was a reward for the player for spending the whole game trying to get that from her. It was nice to have gotten it. Yeah, and then there's the credits. My only note here is that they did Ron a little dirty on the credits too. I didn't like that he wasn't given more credit. He's the last person on the special thanks list.
Yeah.
Which feels insulting. There's something about not only being last, but I felt like he should have been like the first or third credit. Like Monkey Island was created by, like, like this wouldn't have been here without Ron. And I thought it was lame that they didn't give him anything except for a special thanks. And not only that, but it was the last of the special thanks, which, yeah, I just thought that was kind of lame. Like, he created this.
You hear that,
world.
Ron? We got you, man.
Yeah, it's his world and his characters. So this would not be the episode of the 3 that Ron would listen to. But anyway, that's that. And credit scene, yeah.
Yeah, end credit scene, and then all of a sudden you end up with, like, this kid, and he's like, "Oh, the carnival's great, Dad." And then the dad's like, "Oh, well, Ghost Pirate LeChuck, he doesn't say his name, but he's like, they say his body's buried somewhere in the tunnels underneath the amusement park, frozen in time." And then, of course, that leads to the next game because LeChuck obviously can't be dead yet.
Right. Yeah, that does it, man.
Spoiler alert. Or is that too late? Is that not how it works?
Yeah, absolutely not how that works out. Man, retroactive spoiler alerts.
Yeah, just so you know, this whole episode was a spoiler.
We just want to let you know, guys. Yeah, if you haven't played Curse of Monkey Island, turn it off now.
Yeah, this is not a good idea at all. So
cool. Well, we're both exhausted and dehydrated from working through that. Let's get the out of here.
That was
I'm out of curse words too. I had to bleep myself. I used too many earlier.
You did. Okay, well, thank you, hey, our Patreoners, for being a big part of what makes the show possible. Gareth, Mick, Christopher, Brian, Chapman, Jay Holmes, Jeffrey, Couch, Mark Fillion, Tim Ellis, and everybody else. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really, really super duper appreciate it. And there was a couple of comments on our Patreon as well, just talking about the last episode and just saying that they really enjoyed it. We have one from Christopher saying, let's see, that he really enjoyed the episode, loved every second of it. So, and then I had, another person send another message saying they really liked it. So thanks for the shout out on the Patreon website. It's really nice to remind us to go back there and do more with it. And outside of that, thank you so much for listening to this show and for listening to us continue to talk about Monkey Island. Apparently, we're not quite done with you yet. So in the meantime, say hi on Twitter at CGG Podcast and at The Phantom Fellows. Buy The Phantom Fellows on GOG and Itch and Fireflower and Steam. Buy it on all 4. Buy it on 1. But buy it for your friends, whatever you like. A few people have put down reviews since our last episode, and I really want to say thank you so much for doing that. It makes a huge difference. Just like a thumbs up, it game good, like we're happy, everybody else is happy, and it just it convinces Paul to keep doing this stuff because it's always nice to make them feel good when they're doing stuff that you like. And so thank you. Find us on Blue Sky. Find us, let's see, you can email us, mail@cggpodcast.com. We're a Facebook page, we're a group, we're on Instagram and YouTube. Pretty much just throw it into the search bar and Google will know what to do next.
Yes. Thanks to Anna, my music project, The Volume Remote, is back on all the music streaming services. So if you guys want to check that out, the Phantom Fell soundtrack included, and then all the other music isn't a ton. I think I just put the little mixtape out. It's like 6 or 7 songs. But a fun fact for anybody who did play Phantom Falls and enjoyed the music or not, I guess that doesn't qualify for the fun part of the fact. Look, the Volume Remote's other music, a lot of them are songs from the Phantom Fellows, just in a completely different orchestration and organ and composition and layout. So it's kind of fun to, if you're at all familiar with one, to hear it as the other, because it's like a trippy little, like, whoa, I can hear the seeds of what that became in like a synth version, and there's the other versions, and it's all rather interesting, arguably. So check that out if you want to. It's not a like go buy it situation. It's just you could stream it on Apple Music and Spotify and all that stuff. The Volume Remote, and that's it. So we'll be back next time for, I guess, return to Monkey Island. And until we're back for next time, don't kill anybody. don't throw a little poor man off a cliff.
Don't. It's so mean. And then Wally. What about Wally? The whole island exploded. He's left hanging.
Yeah, no, he's dead. He didn't survive that. The impact concussion would have been too much for his little chest. But don't do a murder.
Ah, the Phantom Fellows, a delightful adventure game that's all about unraveling ghastly mysteries and poking fun at the supernatural. It's like a grim fandango meets the Secret of Monkey Island kind of vibe, with a dash of Maniac Mansion mischief thrown in for good measure. So, if you fancy yourself a clever detective with a taste for the paranormal and a knack for wry humor, then the Phantom Fellows will surely captivate your devious mind. Just beware of any skeletal sidekicks who might try to steal the spotlight. We demonic skulls need to stick together after all.